Hello to any combo lords watching in the future. Make sure to stay tuned throughout the video because although there's another live stream, we do often get up to some good mathematical or other types of shenanigans. And to any combo lords in the present, thank you for coming early. And to any combo lords watching this in the past, you gotta show me how you did that. That's weird. And although I've often started some streams that way, because that's a way I like to sort of greet the different directions we're used to time going. I'd like to add a new one to that, which is to any viewers watching this in a direction of time that could not be described as before, during, or after this is on some separate axis. Uh, Welcome to you as well. That's even cooler. Now, today I call this one a little combo assembly because I'll try and be a little more attentive to some comments. We just passed 60,000 combo lords here and 14,000 on the main channel, which is pretty awesome. And so we'll do a little Q&A because the last few streams I was a little sidetracked from the comments. And we also will give a couple fun updates about things you might expect in the next month or two from Combo Class. We got a few more months left in grade -1. I'm not sure exactly when the turning point will be. You know, there will be a time when I know it's the right day to shift over to grade -2. And that will probably come possibly at the end of this year, but more likely not when our calendar decided, ooh, December 31st, big deal. More likely sometime when it makes sense in early 2023. But we still have a lot more interesting plans for grade -1. So there's a lot more interesting stuff going. Now, someone's saying from a different time zone, so the past. Now, in terms of the clock time, you could say it's in the past, but I think I'm still going to call that the present in terms of if there was some weird, if we noticed the sun explode, then that would happen at a similar time to the two of us. Now, of course, all time is relative. We haven't gone into that too much, but it's a whole trip we'll go into talking about sometime of how simultaneousness is sort of a myth. Things sort of don't work in the space-time continuum in that there's a true simultaneity of two events happening at the same time without accounting for their position and distance and stuff. And when you're accounting that, if you had accounted it a different way, you would consider different events to have been simultaneous. Someone's asking, who am I? I wonder if they're recommending this stream to random people again. That's cool when they do that. I am Demotra the Combo Lord. Usually have my lab coat on. I rushed out to start the stream early, and I'll probably need to grab my charger thing from inside anyway, at which point I will grab my lab coat to confirm that I don't get any damage to my normal layers in case we bust out anything too rare. Someone's wondering if there's any creators that particularly inspired my videos. Um, I would say there's some strange influences that I'll name. I do watch a lot of YouTube, but my videos come from a stranger, weird direction in my mind that I think some of the influences were other forms of media I may have absorbed throughout life. Um, and there probably are YouTubers who have snuck influences into my videos, but I watch all sorts of different stuff, so it's a little hard to pinpoint. My videos sometimes approach it from a slightly different approach than a lot of the math channels I watch. Although I will have to shout out that I'm sure I have unintentionally or intentionally taken some inspiration from my very favorite math channels, which are 3 Blue 1 Brown, Mathologer, Stand Up Maths, and Numberphile would probably be my cream of the crop, super top favorites that have probably snuck some influences in. And then I actually just like watching a lot of chaotic stuff. I like Jackass. I like the Eric Andre show. I like YouTube videos of stuff exploding. So there's a little bit of a chaotic influence in some of my things as well. And then I like a little bit of surrealism. So one of my favorite filmmakers of all time is this guy, I believe from Czechoslovakia, called Jan Svankmajer, who did these really cool stop motion animations And I really like stop motion and claymation and just the way that looks and taps into a sort of dreamlike mood, takes you to sort of another realm. So I like a bit of surrealism. I also read a lot, so a lot of my influences have probably come from reading. But I guess one more thing to name along the lines of stop motion and stuff is I actually love cartoons. So I don't watch many movies. I don't watch many TV shows. There are some comedy TV shows I like. So there's probably actually some weird, subtle influences I've taken from the way running gags are treated in certain, what's technically a sitcom, although some people use that to refer to like an older, certain laugh tracky type thing. A situational comedy technically fits a lot of the modern comedies. Um, so some of those shows are pretty great. A few I would mention of TV shows I've enjoyed a lot were, um, let's see, Arrested Development, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Community, The Office. There's a bunch of good ones there. A really great strange show is Nathan for You. That's more real worldish. But I mostly what I was going to say is watch a lot of cartoons actually if I am watching non-YouTube media, and I really like old cartoons from like the 40s and 60s. There are cool modern cartoons too. Adventure Time's great, Regular Show's great, Gravity Falls is great, Rick and Morty's good. There's a lot of good ones out there, but my favorites are the like certain eras of Looney Tunes and these guys called the Fleischer Bros and other companies that were around in like the 20s to 60s made some really interesting cartoons. So that's actually like one of my favorite types of media absorb apart from YouTube. But I also just read a lot. So in terms of the culture, some of my top influences for the ways that I like to find topics and present videos and stuff are the writers Martin Gar, Raymond Smullyan, Clifford Pickover, and some other mathematical writers that I think make things catchy in a way that I try to. Um, Someone's asking if time's absolute or relative, and I would say that maybe there's a metric that time could be absolute, but for the only ways we can currently measure it, it's relative. Um, Someone's saying, would I rather have a time machine or live forever? I think living forever would be a curse eventually. It would end up being very hard to have gone through every emotion every time and start to feel jaded and bored about everything and have to watch everyone be born and die so many times. So I think forever would be a curse. But I think that, I mean, living like 1,000 years would be cool. So if I could either have a time machine or 1,000 years, I'd still probably pick a time machine because you just get to see so much more of reality. The problem is that I would need to check the rules on it because, like, what if you use a time machine, you visit one point in the future, and you die from a disease that's in the air that you're not adapted to? So you need to have some logistical concerns. Um, Someone's wondering if I know about 6147. That looks like one of those numbers that get generated by one of those iterative processes that you put in your number and it goes there. But let me look it up real quick. Um, Maybe I don't know about 6147 because it's not exactly that one I'm thinking about, I don't think. Um, so no, maybe I don't. Let me know. So let's see. Thank you to everyone who's commenting. And in a moment, I am going to probably need to run, grab my charger. Probably will grab my lab coat as well. But first, we'll do a little bit of some combo class updates in general. And last night, well, mostly last afternoon, but it verged into, I guess I wouldn't even call it the time I would consider night, but it gets so dark here now that they did that daylight savings switch, and because it's winter, and because where I am right here, there's like these fences that when the sun passes just the fences, it gets dark kind of to a degree. And so it's weird in the combo class here. You might have seen in streams before, but it'll be even more intense if I ever film here at what's like 5 o'clock to me here now this season. It'll turn from light to dark in like 10 minutes. And so it'll turn from like really light to like really dark in like 20 or 30 minutes. So sometimes I'll be filming and it'll just be like, bam, it's dark. And so that day in a cool episode I was filming. But what that did end up making happening is I got some candles out to use candles for lighting up the scene, good old fashioned way of lighting things. And all I'll say is that the desk is taking even more of a toll. This is part of the desk. So here's the rest of the desk. There's it's sideways now, as you may know, but the bit that was hanging upward that was flimsy ended up breaking during filming yesterday. Now, there is one more episode that will. Someone's saying it's one of the Capricorn constants. That's what I was thinking. That was the one I was referring to. So yeah, I do know that one. Now, a lot of people ask me to make a video about that, but it's not the only Capricorn's constant. There are other ones. So people get really excited about that one because it's a good example, but there are ones for other amounts of digit of number. There are also things that are more referential to other bases versions of that. So it's sort of a whole family of number, which is why I haven't made it just that number into a video. I'll probably make a longer video at some point, like a full channel video or something about that whole family of number. So, yeah, 6174. Cool. So, there's one more episode that will come out before the one I filmed last night, but they're both going to be super cool because we're going to have one that's going to have some animations that one of my fans is working on with me that enhance my points, where I drew a bunch of these shapes on my whiteboard, but now we're going to see them in motion too. And so that'll be the one that's coming out this weekend in a day or so. And then there's going to be the one I filmed last night, which is all about factorials. And since many of you may already know, factorials can represent permutations of things. And if you don't know, don't worry, that's explained thoroughly in the episode. But basically, it made sense to have a lot of short cutscenes with a lot of crazy props. So there's going to be a lot of wild stuff going on there. I also did some 24 different really short shots of me with a rearranged setup of clocks, because how many ways can you arrange 4 clocks? 4 factorial. I mean, assuming by order we mean what's called a permutation, where you are just taking a set of things and using all of them, putting them in some order. Someone's wondering if there's a number I hate the most. Now, of course, if I were to expand the view outward to more and more and more numbers, then you could find a number you arbitrarily liked less than the others. Whatever trait I could come up with that made a number less interesting or less important to me, because I don't really have a reason to hate a number. So it would have to be the kind of least interesting number, but then, ooh, a squirrel. But then whatever trait I found uninteresting about that, like if I'm like, this number's nowhere close to any primes, it has a boring prime factorization, it's a medium amount of divisibility, it's not triangular, it's not square, then I could find one that's even like worse in that category somewhere along the number line. So we have to pick a range. We have to be like, what's my least favorite number 1 to 10, or what's my least favorite number 1 to 100 or something. So my least favorite number from 1 to 10 is either 7 or 10. 7 and 10 are both the least interesting from 1 to 10. Here's why. 1 is obviously important. It's the multiplicative identity. You can kind of build all numbers out of it. It's like one of the axioms you basically need to invent in your arithmetic, and then you can like make the rest of the numbers from it, kind of. So 1 is obviously important and cool. 2 is like the simplest for a lot of forms of growth, for a lot of forms of representing larger numbers without needing like tally marks, like using binary processing systems. 2 is often necessary for a whole dynamical system. Now, sometimes even 3 is necessary for a dynamical system, and sometimes things actually require 3s to sort of grow or be fully incorporated. And 3 is also, in a way, the first normal prime, and 2 is also a sort of irregular prime, but they both share the credit of being primes that are closer than usual. And so 1, 2, and 3 obviously got to be pretty important ones. Now let's go to 4. 4 is pretty cool. 4 is not as cool as 1, 2, and 3, but it's the first non-1 square number. and then, or non-zero also, the first square number greater than 1. And it's a kind of neat square number because 2 plus 2 equals 2 times 2 equals 2 to the second power equals 2 tetrated 2 and stuff like that. So 4 is kind of a neat one. And then 5. 5 is interesting because it's sort of the first prime that follows a lot of rules. It doesn't land too close like 2 and 3 do. And 5 is tucked as a double twin prime between 3 and 7. 5 is also pentagons, which have similar to golden ratio traits within them, and other cool geometry, like they can fit on dodecahedron faces. 5 also, I'm not going to say that the fingers matters. That's not the important trait of 5. So the fact that we have 5 fingers, don't get worried about that being related here. That's not. But 5 is kind of interesting because it's a point where certain patterns break. The 5th power in polynomials is less tame than anything that has a 4th power at most. The insolvability of the quintic we'll go into sometime. And then how about 6? 6 is awesome. 6 is 1 plus 2 plus 3. It's also 1 times 2 times 3. I've ranted about 6 enough. I've had whole 10-minute rants about the number 6. So 1 through 6 are all pretty fundamental. Now 8 and 9 are pretty awesome because 8 is the first cube number bigger than 1. 9 is not the first square number, but it has a weird relationship with 8 where it's like 2 to the third power and 3 to the second power are right next to each other. And in fact, it's the closest any square and cube number apart from 0 and 1 will ever be on the number line. So 1 through 6 and 8 and 9 are pretty awesome. That leaves 7 or 10. Now, here's where I'm torn. 7 is an early prime. So being an early prime is pretty fundamental. But 10, and once again, not related to us having 10 fingers, not related to it being the first 2-digit number, because that's just our system. The cool trait about 10 is it is the first greater than 1 number that is both a triangular number and a tetrahedral number. So the cool thing about 10 is that it's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and that it's also 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. So that's the thing about 10, not that it's the first 2-digit number because we happen to count in base 10 or whatever. So 7, though, is an early prime, and those have some good traits. So 7 is also interesting that a regular heptagon can't be constructed. It's the smallest amount of sides on a regular polygon that with like a straight edge and compass cannot be constructed. So I'm tied between 7 and 10 being the least cool number from 1 to 10. Maybe another day we'll go into a much longer story of the least cool numbers from 1 to 100, because at that point 7 and 10 are small enough that they're more fundamental than some random ones. So we're going to start seeing something like, what's my guess? I don't know, something like 98. 98 might not be at the top of the list of fundamentalness on our 1 to 100 list. Someone says 89. 89 is a prime with some distance around it. So let's take a look at the list of primes. The 89 is in a surprisingly not dense part of the 1 to 100 in terms of primes. Normally the primes are landing really close there, but 89 is the only prime between higher than 83 and smaller than 97. So that's a little more of a rare section. Now it's also a Fibonacci prime. So it's in the Fibonacci sequence, and so you could say Fibonacci primes, and now I'm going to click over to Fibonacci primes and see the list of those. So here's the fun fact about 89. It is the only prime, or the only number bigger than 13 and smaller than 2. It's both a prime and in the Fibonacci sequence. Now, of course, we can probably see some more fun facts here. It's other types of prime too. They have a Wikipedia article about it. They have Wikipedia articles about all the small numbers. And that's what I'm taking a quick peek through here because we don't need to do any intense research. Okay, and here's a good one. The 89th Mersenne number which is the numbers 1 under a power of 2, or could also be seen as sums of powers of 2, or if you watch my Hyper 11s episode, you'll see it can be seen as Hyper 11s in binary. The 89th one is the 10th one that's prime, and Mersenne primes are important. So, yeah, there's some other ones too. But, oh, here's a good one, I think. Isn't like 189th going to do something interesting? Looks kind of primey or Fibonacci-like. 189th is 0.011235 and then some fives and stuff. Now, yeah, very Fibonacci-like. 11235. Yeah, I'll look into that more. I remember something about its relationship to some cool stuff, the fraction. So that's probably enough fun facts about 89 to start liking it more than something like 98. Some people are requesting some different topic fields, and I'll think about incorporating those for sure. Always down to hear topic requests. There's also a thread I made on the subreddit for Combo Class, which doesn't have much going on it yet, but there's a thread there if anyone ever has a topic they want to suggest for videos that they would like to see. I already have a huge stack of topics that I already have like relatively brainstormed, and I'm just waiting for the right resources to film and stuff in the right time. So it may take a while for me to get to requested topics unless they happen to line up from one of my stack. But if they line up with one of my stack, then I'll prioritize it too. Or if it's something that is not in my stack, then I'll think about incorporating it in grade -2. So, why so many cultures landed on base 10? Yeah, fingers. If we were thinking about it more mathematically, we may have ended up like the societies that counted in base 60, which there are some of, but that's a pretty big number, and 60 is good because it's such a divisible number. So you can get a lot of the good traits 60 has with 6 or 12. Now, we are going to do more weird base episodes, and in fact, the new episode on the main channel about base -10 and base -2 is doing awesome, which I love when the main channel episodes do good, because really that's my biggest passion project. Like, I love that this channel's blown up even past it, but really the main channel's my favorite part of this show. And so with that, I love when one of those does well, and it makes me a lot more proud and happy than when a short does insanely well. I'd rather have like a main channel episode do medium well. And the base -10 one is doing pretty awesome. So definitely going to try and keep one rolling out on the main channel every 6 to sometimes 7 days. And physics, someone's wondering about. We will cover that, but physics and other more scientific sides of science and math, I kind of want to incorporate cool visual demonstrations in the real world for. So, I'll talk about more physics when I have like more cool equipment and stuff. Now, at some point pretty soon to start funding the show, I am going to start a Patreon, but I'm going to be offering cool stuff. So I'm actually going to be offering some private group classes with me that just a small group of people go to. And depending on different tiers, some of them will have the chance to talk to me directly about the questions you guys have and stuff. So I'll be launching a Patreon a bit, and it's also just going to have a ton of old extra videos that I didn't want to formally upload on here, or were too crazy to put on here, but just like a lot of different projects from my past I'll put on there. But there will also be some tiers that at the right points people can like join classroom sessions with me more directly, and or have the chance to ask me questions directly or talk to me about what they're learning or what they need help with. And that's going to be something I will maybe be doing more and more going forward, offering different types of group classes in addition to the streams that are more focused on a single topic and stuff. and more chance for specific questions and feedback. Because I still teach a bunch of private lessons throughout the week, but as comic book class money, we will dedicate as much of my time as we can, and we'll spend any of the remaining money that wasn't needed for editors and stuff on bigger bubble machines, more clocks, and more dice. And in fact, I think that it's about time to restock some classroom supplies. So part of why I was calling this one an assembly is because I wanted to make some more notes about some things to expect in the grade, and partially because that basically is a combo class version of a live stream, is an assembly, but partially because I need to brainstorm with everyone here. What is the most sensible thing for me to buy when I restock classroom supplies? Now, some of the options, I should write them down as I brainstorm here. Some of the options for what we could spend the remainder of my money on is we could get just a bunch of clocks. We could just go crazy on clocks. Now, these don't have to necessarily be like all or none. You know, we can split the resources between these. We can get more types and more amount of dice. We can we don't really need whiteboards. I have a lot of little ones. We could get more medium-sized whiteboards. We could get more random plastic decorations of fruits and birds to hang to the trees and stuff. We can also invest in higher quality bubble technology. Now, leave other suggestions any of you have. And in fact, I should go run and get the phone charger. Probably grab my lab coat while I'm at it in case we end up spraying bubbles everywhere. So I want you guys real quick to hang around. I'll just be like 2 minutes and write down what you think. Oh yeah, so whiteboard markers, I guess, is one thing we should put on here. And that could include different colors. All right, leave other suggestions or votes for any of these. You guys can vote for up to 2 each. I'll be back in a sec. All right, guys, we're back in action. Someone said, WTF, a plane? Yeah, it's really noisy out in the outdoor classroom. Sometimes you get planes, you get trains, you get neighborhoods. You know, sometimes people play loud music, sometimes people jump on trampolines, but that's all good because I am probably noisier than average. So, you know, if you're doing more than average of the chaos, then can't complain about the chaos. I mean, in addition to my noise, I'm flooding the neighborhood with bubbles these days. Someone wants to know about lattice. That would be very interesting to cover, but I'd want to study it a little more thoroughly before I presented it. One that will definitely be the topic of someday an episode when I'm ready to present the topic will be this weird one called the Leech lattice. Super interesting one. Uh, 1 second, let me just text that I am on stream right now. This is one of my editors, so should shoot a text while I read through your stuff. But let me see what else is going on here. We're taking off this guy. Yeah, removing that person. Someone's saying that beside the airplane, something appealing about the video is the open air classroom. And yes, okay, I'm putting one on here that is going first with the resources, which is mics, better microphones. That one is just getting a box because you guys don't need to vote for it. That one I'll get. Don't worry, you don't need to vote for it. Before I blow much money on these, I may restock a little bit on these, but before I spend too much on these, I'll make sure that I use whatever I have in my savings on mics. So now let's see. We got a vote for a different pen color already. I guess that's why I put that on there. Someone wants bubble tech and whiteboard colors and more marker colors too. So this one's getting a few votes. This one got 3 votes. So now if you guys hang around long enough, you can leave a vote for more than 2. So you can leave a vote for a new one every once in a while. So theoretically, someone could end up voting more than once if they hang around long enough. But don't, if you already left one, wait like half an hour to leave another one. And if anyone new wants to leave any votes, they can. We also had a vote for bubble tech. All right. So now I'm going to cast my personal votes. I'm not only going to weigh my opinion as heavily as your opinions, because I'm fine with all these. So I like all the ideas, so I only need my opinion to be the equal vote. So I'm going to say that I want some clocks, and I'm going to go with, well, I'm torn between bubble tech and dice, but I got to just go for clocks and dice. So now anyone can continue throughout the assembly to cast their votes. Might as well put this on in case I boot up the bubble machine in a second, which I may. The bubble machine though is not the best for the computer because I gotta aim the computer so it doesn't get sprayed with all that soap or whatever it is. So, all right. We also, if we need to show anything interesting today, we got a deck of cards. Now, the reason I had this out is because a classic analogy about factorials relates to a deck of cards. So I had to throw in some deck of cards analogies. Now, let's see. Why is this backwards feeling? Okay. Yeah, maybe we can see what's interesting about a deck of cards in a minute. So we also have a lot of extra props out here today. Now that's because one of the shots in my factorial video I filmed yesterday involved having 10 students who were in different seats in the classroom. And as someone pointed out once, there's a lot of chairs that were back here. And so luckily I had 10 chairs ready. And I didn't have 10 students, so I used inanimate students, such as the classroom chicken. And that fella. So, There's a lot of extra props out here today and a lot of weird craziness, such as the desk that got burnt, as you will see later. In any case, I do need to shoot this text real quick to my editor, and then I will cast the new votes on here. Cool. So we got to vote for dice and whiteboard markers and dice. Dice, whiteboard markers, dice, clocks, and then we had someone saying improving the classroom in general. That's too vague. That could mean all sorts of stuff. Now we're going to see, what time is it? It is, for me, the time is almost 2 p.m. in 5 minutes. Well, no, in 5 minutes it won't be almost 2 p.m. I can't put both of those quantifiers or whatever on. The last vote was dice and markers. So markers is soaring ahead. So let's, and also, of course, you can leave suggestions for new things to even put on the board, although now they're going to need to catch up a little bit. But maybe I'll just spread it out. Maybe I'll just spend $5 per check mark or something on whatever gets the most. Now, to the person who mentioned unique clocks, don't worry, the clocks will be unique enough. Now, I have promised hundreds, so there may be like up to 5 of each type of clock. If I can find a really good deal on clocks, then I might get like 5 at a time. But I'm not going to get like not going to get double digits amount of any given clock because I need variety. Of course, there are 2 goals. And while a goal is to meet my standard of more than 400 that I have promised, the deeper goal to me is to get cool ones. So don't worry. I really, more than I am worried about the quantity, I am wondering when I'm going to get a grandfather clock. Now, I do need to plug in the computer, but I'll plug in the bubble machine too, just in case we need it. So, while I do this, let's see what's here. Someone said, do I also know Russian? Because clearly I am. Well, some of my family, if you went back a little bit, was from Russia and some from nearby regions like Ukraine. But I don't have any immediate Russian family, and I don't know Russian. I've never been there. But yeah, I have, like, if you went back to like great grandparents, then I would have family from a lot of different regions in Europe. So I'm going to plug this in and figure out what our fun topic's going to be. Thanks, everybody. The patience. Stop. School crossing. Don't ask where I got that. Don't worry, I didn't take it from a school. So, yeah, so I guess one thing I want to give an update on is the little bin where I put all that dirt last time. So, in that dirt planter, I guess you can call them, I haven't yet planted the vegetable-y things that I was going to quite yet because I need to get a good scene of planting and watering them in case they grow good enough to have a whole snack break about whatever weird stuff comes out of them. Now, whatever comes out of this one's not going to be edible, but it might look cool. However, somewhere around here amidst the chaos, I also do have the onion and garlic, which might do even more interesting things. However, right now, there is not that stuff in it. To save space in there, what we have in there is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's just a shattered clock in there. So, yeah, maybe it'll accidentally grow a clock because the clock's shattered enough that maybe some seeds spread. But it's hard to see from here. If I stretch this too far, it will cause trouble. Peppers are a good idea. Maybe I should grow a really hot pepper and do a challenge with my friends. I still have one of those world's hottest chips that someone gave me. So I'm going to eat that with my friends sometime. I don't think I want to eat the whole thing because while I like challenging myself, I'm not necessarily good with heat. Like eating a hot thing will be hot enough. So like the world's hottest chip, I feel like eating a quarter or a third of it will be fine to send me into heat mode. So I'll probably split that with a few friends sometime. Don't worry, I'll make sure to get some sort of footage from it. But yeah, other types of pepper are interesting too. Now, peppers are actually in the nightshade family, and I'm sort of planning a nightshade because this is the root of something I'm pretty sure is in the nightshade family. There is a potato fruit that I think is in the nightshade family, similar to peppers and tomatoes, but the potato fruit is poisonous. So that's why they've probably bred it out, or at least just don't use it. So I want to grow those, not to eat them, just to do some, uh, see if you can. Someone's wondering if there's a working clock. If you mean working in terms of trying to be right and being a little fast or a little slow, but always trying to keep that up, no, because that would be wrong more often than these clocks. These clocks are right twice a day. Um, so, breeding my own plants. Yeah, well, I want to work with some botanists and stuff like that. I don't know enough about plants to breed my own yet. Maybe someday. But maybe I can work with some interesting scientists and gardeners to work something out. Maybe I can make some specialty hybrids that you never thought were possible. The cherry lemon. The, I don't know, some cool hybrids. Really, what I'm excited about is, I swear, they've been making the fruits and vegetables bigger these days. Now, a lot of the fear of genetically modifying things, which isn't the only way to make things bigger, but is one of the reasons, is biased and wrong. There aren't any scientific reasons proven to fear genetically modified foods as long as they were researched a little for each one before they were put to market. So, no proven risks and no evidence to suspect risks as long as they follow certain precautions when they're making sure it's ready to release to market. So, I'm cool with them doing whatever they need to do that doesn't involve some weird pesticides or stuff to make the fruits and berries bigger and bigger. And I swear they're already doing it. They're way bigger than before. And you know it's happening because if you look up pictures or paintings of really old fruits and vegetables, they sucked. Corn looked like wheat, watermelon looked all hollow. Oh man, they looked terrible. They made them so much better over time just by breeding selectively. Um, and then now with a lot of methods, probably. But I'm cool with, as long as it doesn't involve anything poisonous in there, them continuing whatever they're doing to make the fruits bigger and bigger. Because I swear they did not have blueberries like that big back in the day. Now they, I support it, and I can't wait until we can eat a blueberry with a fork and a knife. Um, the mega berries, someone wants to breed them back to be small. Well, it wasn't just small, they just also were like less flavorful, more bigger seeds, bigger stems, more grainy. Um, so not just have they grown, but the flavors have gone too. If you just made them small without losing texture, that could be cool. Having every size of it. Here's what you do. I'll show you more about this technique in some more videos sometime, but this is a technique I like to bust out when it's summertime. take the biggest stone fruit you can find. Subtly cut it open just enough to remove the pit. Sometimes you don't even have to go all the way around. Sometimes you can kind of like open it a little bit and remove the pit. Replace the inside with a smaller stone fruit. But in that smaller stone fruit, you have replaced the pit with something as well. Now, it's hard to go too many layers, but theoretically, you can go like a massive peach with a smaller apricot in it, with a small cherry in it, with a little blueberry as its seed. And then you just have a fully edible combo fruit. And I'll show you more about that technique of mine in some tutorials someday. There are a lot of options of how you could extend that. So I'm imagining that if you had all sorts of sizes of a cherry, for example, you could just replace the big cherry, its pit, with the next size cherry, and replace its pit with the next size cherry. And then you have this like mega cherry that's fully edible. Someone says they want to hear more music and lyrics and stuff. I will share a bunch of that. That will be coming out on the bonus channel over time, as well as new music I have written and made. Someone will be using the Sanctioned and Powerful Fruit technique, and it won't be stealing, don't worry. All of my techniques are to be shared. Of course, whenever you copy something plant-related that I do, make sure you do your research, because in this case, it's purely safe. But if you ever see me eat something crazy, that's not necessarily to be copied, because on the video, I'm not going to show you all of the parts of me researching the thing. That'd be boring. So I researched my thing, that since your thing looks like your thing's safe, because part of the research is, does your current thing match? Just because the visual matches, is that enough? So if you ever see me crazy stuff, not to be copied. This technique, however, I can't imagine anything going wrong, so I'm going to straight up say copy it. Now there's other techniques you can use as well. There's another technique I like to make, is one that I call a micro fruit salad. Now here's what you do. It takes a minute. I've never fully assembled a big one. You have to pluck all of the kernels off some raspberries and blackberries. And if you don't mind the seeds, you can put in some pomegranate seeds, and you might put in some really small blueberries or something, if they're small enough. And you put in any bit of little like aggregate fruit or something like that can be disassembled, or fruits that could be tiny. And if you need, you just dice some type of stone fruit or something hyper tiny, and then you mix it all together. And then in each spoonful, you're getting all sorts of different little fruits and textures. Now you could also try and, oranges, if you look up close, they have little pods of juice. You can somehow separate those into the microfruit salad. It can be as micro as you have time for. But the goal with the microfruit salad is that they're about the size of the microfruits are between the size of a raspberry, little bit like a raspberry kernel or whatever you call it, and maybe a pomegranate seed. So then it's a fruit salad, but every bite you get all the fruits. One final technique, and again, I will clarify these even more in some actual tutorial snack breaks someday. Final technique. You take certain stone fruits that are like relatively firm, so that you want them ripe, but you can't have them super like close to mushy for this. And you slice them into super thin slices. And then you stack the slices in layers like a little sandwich. And then you have like a little sandwich of fruit where you're biting through like 10 layers of all the stone fruits you can imagine. So those are some techniques. Um, just since I guess it's a little late. It's too late for summer for me. But however, other places around the globe have seasonal things at different times. So I'm sure there are people right now who have some stone fruits ripe ready to do this technique. Someone's saying the hand's reflecting sunlight. Where is that? I don't think the hand's necessarily why my face is glowing, but oh yeah, there we go. Now it is. Ooh, spooky. If you want to see something really spooky, you'll have to wait till the Factorial episode when it gets really dark out, and then my candles cause some chaos. But first, we will have one about what these cool, bouncy, star polygon-like shapes have to do with prime numbers. And I'm very excited, like I've said, that the last one about base -10 seems to be doing quite well. Thank you to all the new people who are leaving random comments and saying that they've found it on the newer end as well. We are now past 60,000 combo lords here. So crazy. This bonus channel has been around less than 3 months. So a lot of good stuff coming still in grade -1 because the rest of the episodes have new things you haven't seen sometimes, like animations, more almost stop motion like things. And at some point, which will probably be the start of grade -2, I'll be launching comboclass.org. And on there, we will have the videos linked with paragraphs of me connecting and describing them in other details, and with a little maze-like structure to connect them. And as time goes on, we'll try and get cool games and interfaces and puzzles on comboclass.org too. And like I mentioned earlier, what I didn't mention is that it will probably be the start of December. I'll be launching a Patreon for this channel that includes some private-ish group lessons where people who have the link to that can be basically more like in a classroom than me, where you may think of my streams sort of like free lessons, which they are sometimes, but they are a lot more rant-like, and I just sort of have fun on these. But I actually have a lot of private students, and I think it would be more fun to teach small groups of you guys. And that will also be a place for cheaper tiers to find just a lot of crazy videos from my past and stuff that are either too crazy for YouTube, or I'm more embarrassed to want to put on YouTube, or didn't make sense to put here because they're too much behind the scenesy, or whatever. So love you all, thank you all, and remember, one of the biggest ways to help out the channel is to leave comments and watches on the main channel videos, because those are the ones I'm most proud of. And those will be coming once a week, and when possible, once every 6 days, because 6 is cooler than 7. Now, nobody's adding any extra votes, but just to see where we're at so far, looking like we're going to be getting a lot of colors of whiteboard, a bunch of dice, and a few clocks. The problem with 1 vote for Bubble Tech is that you can't get a 1 vote amount worth of Bubble Tech. That will be buying more bubble soap. Someone's saying the shorts algorithm's crazy efficient, and but they wish YouTube gave the longer form. Yeah, it's a lot harder to get in the graces of the long form algorithm. Now, I'm sure the shorts may be hard for some people, but I've had an easier time getting in the graces of the shorts algorithm. Now, with that said, I've made hundreds of shorts. So it wasn't in the first 20 or so that any did well. I've made a lot of them in the past half year. So part of it is to be, but the shorts algorithm great, and it was a lot faster than I expected. And my internet's acting weird. Hopefully, yeah, I out for a second, but I think it's trying to do its best with the internet. And so the shorts algorithm has treated me way faster than I expected, and so that's cool. Now, I've kept channels separate for a few reasons. I don't want to be as perfectionist on this channel, And I would feel worried that I would be scaring away some people who only have time for the full series by doing all these live streams and random shorts and stuff. And I want to be able to share more random parts of my life and thought process and side topics. So I wanted to have a channel to be like perfectionist with. And also, I'm not a fan of watching shorts as much. I like watching long form content. And although they're changing it to be separated on channels anyway, um, I still kind of preferred having that channel just be a purely long form thing, sort of like it's the link to where you get a free TV show, or if you're a teacher, a free educational material catalog. And this channel will be a little more chaotic to sift through if you want to treat it like a TV show or an educational catalog. So, for a few reasons, I kept the channels separate, but I think what's good about it is that the people who leave comments here, who tune into the streams and stuff, I'm sure are as big of fans and probably the same ones as are tuned into the main channel. But all 60,000 people of here aren't going to interact with it as much because some of them just tuned in from a short. So I have kind of a gauge of who I have as like full fans who are tuned into the main channel, and who I have as sort of accessory fans who will have a higher likelihood of seeing my content, but who may have only seen me from one or two shorts. Um, Now, luckily, that one video did blow up on the main channel. It got 200,000 views. And the current one is doing really good. So hopefully the current one catches some crazy wind like that last one. And someone's wondering if all the dice will be six-sided. Definitely not, because right now I still have a ton of dice. Like if I just pick up a handful of soil right here, there's gonna be dice in it. But a lot of the ones I can spot everywhere are six-sided because I had like 1,000 six-sided ones and like 400 other types or something, maybe even more skewed, like 1,200 six-sided and like 200 other ones or something. And so now I like can't find a specific, like if I need a tetrahedron or an octahedron, I can't find it for the life of me. It takes like 5 minutes to find if I need one of each platonic solid. Um, so I need more of the other types for sure. That'll actually be the priority over more six-sided, because I can right here see like 100 six-sided. I can see one icosahedron, and I can't see hardly anything else. Here's a dodecahedron. Okay, I'm finding them, but that's just because I already tried to unearth them for a video the other day. But still can't even see a tetrahedron in sight, so I don't even have quite all of the platonic solids. Now, for those who wonder what I mean by that, these are 4 out of 5 perfect shapes by a certain definition of perfect. And you can see my episode about what I call the mysterious hyperdice sequence, because you can also categorize what the higher dimensional versions would be. And not all of them have like a higher dimensional version forever. This one has a 4D thing that's basically this in 4D. I mean, it's like you have to describe it more, but it's very close to describing it just as this in 4D. But, and you'd have to do a little math to figure out what does that mean, how do they meet up and stuff, how many per corner and stuff. But basically this gone up a dimension. But there's not this gone up 2 dimensions. However, the cube does have it gone up 2 dimensions. So growing dice plants, I mean, I could try planting them and watering them, but I doubt I'll get anything out of that. I think I'd have more luck with a clock. Someone's wondering if I have a favorite perfect square number. Now, it's going to be hard to take a title. Well, yes, I do. But first, I'm going to give a shout out to saying it's hard not to say 1, 4, or 9. So I'm going to choose one that's not those. Those are just so cool and fundamental, 1, 4, and 9. They have a lot going on for each of them. Or 0, if you consider that. So I'm going to say one that's not those, which is 36. 36, I believe. And I couldn't find this source online, so I have to go to like the library or something to find the book that apparently has the source. But 36, I believe, from what I've read, but I couldn't find the proof for yet, is the only triangular number that its square root is not only an integer, but is another triangular number. There are other triangular square numbers, but 36 is both triangular and square. It's the sum of the first, I think, 8 integers, but it's also 6 squared. Or would it be the sum of the first 9 integers? Let's see. 9, 8. Whatever. It's a triangular number and a square number. But from what I've read that I still want to look up the proof for, which I think I need to go to a library for, is that it's the only one that 6 and 36 are the only ones that are like a square to another triangular number. Now, someone's saying the digits of 7 squared are perfect squares. In our base, yeah, but that's a little base dependent. So I'm trying to think of things that are just true about the numbers in general. 16 has some fun things too, but it also has some ways it's not that innovative compared to what 8's already achieved and 4's already achieved. So I'm going to go with 36. There's a lot of other cool stuff about 36. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about 36 in terms of mathematics. What they have to say is the square triangular thing I said. So also just that it's the smallest square triangular number at all greater than 1 that's both square and triangular. The smallest number with exactly 8. Okay, we don't need that exactly. But it's highly composite, 36. The highly composite numbers are the ones with more divisors than any smaller number. And it looks like under that, 24 had 8 divisors or factors. 36 beats it. It has 9. And 9 is better than any number from 1 to 47 gets until we get to 48. So 36 is highly composite as well. It's the number, if we're using our degree system of like 360 degree type deal, it's the number of degrees in the interior angle of each tip of a regular pentagram. 36 degrees. Can you see that? Let me see. Yeah, 36 degrees in those tips. It says the number of domino tilings of a 4x4 checkerboard's 36. Oh, this one some will like and some won't like. So 36 is triangular. And then what if we then say, what is the 36th triangular number? That means the sum of the numbers from 1 to 36. Well, that happens to be 666. I'm a fan of that. I know not everyone will be. I don't mean like I'm a fan of the devil or whatever that's supposed to mean. I mean, the number 666 has some cool properties. Now it says, oh yeah, 36 is, since it's 6 squared and squares, cubes have 6 faces and are the most common die, you have 36 possible things that could happen when you roll these 2 dice, counting duplicate options that make something like 7 more likely as a sum. So it says, oh yeah, here's a good one. So 36, because it's the square of a triangular number, that makes it, those numbers have a special property. The sums of triangular numbers are, in a way, if you square a triangular number, then you get an answer that's also the sum of a first amount of cubes, taken as cubes separately, then added. And what that means is that 36, since it's the square of not only 6, but 6 is a triangular number, so we can say 36 is the square of 1 plus 2 plus 3 in parentheses. It turns out that 1 plus 2 plus 3 squared equals 1 cubed plus 2 cubed plus 3 cubed, based on equal identity. So that's also 36. Now, we can also build it other ways. We could say that since this is the same as 1 times 2 times 3, it's also 1 times 2 times 3 then squared. And it's also, we could say, the first two primes multiplied together and then squared. Now, in this case, it wouldn't matter if we reassigned and said we square each, then multiply them, or we square it after. So that is a few of the many reasons why 36 is a superior number and is the coolest multi-digit square number. And that's saying a lot. Square numbers are really notable. I think square numbers are one of the most fun things in math because there are many ways to build them apart from multiplying a number by itself, and they relate to many other sequences. And they're kind of like the simplest version of many realms of puzzle involve, or many realms of question about number involve square numbers. Got to shout out cubes as well. Now, fourth powers have a lot of traits of second powers. Fifth powers are starting to get trippy. Third powers do have the additional good trait that we can make analogies out of them in this dimension. Same with, we can make analogies of 2D things. For example, this is a weird type of almost sphere with little hollow things. I inherited some golf clubs back in the day, as well as some golf balls, and tees. So someday we'll figure out a good scientific use for those. Someone's saying they're seeing that there's a video by Stand Up Maths on 36. I don't remember that, but I'll have to check it out. He is great. Someone's wondering if I studied math at university or somewhere else. And I've taken classes, college level classes of math, but due to a long series of twisty and turny events, I didn't end up going to like the UC colleges that I got into, which are like some consider higher level ones. And I went to a variety of city colleges that were connected in Berkeley and Oakland and stuff in California. And you can still, if you look in the right places and try, get good professors there. And I'll explain more about the whole stories and sagas of that era later. But to make a long story short, I only took about 2 years of college, and a bunch of that was mathish classes, but as well as other classes. More of my learning was done from personal investigations and reading and writing and more reading. So, I think that's answered most of the questions. Now we've gone a little over an hour, and I do have stuff to do later today. Unfortunately, boring stuff. It's a physical therapy appointment because I got surgery just a couple months ago. Well, I guess more like 4 months ago now, but still. So I still have to do physical therapy and stuff. So unfortunately, got to do that later today. But then I shall return to polishing up the edit with my editor of an episode to drop on the main channel in a day or two. And this one, like I said, will have some fun animations and is just a cool 15 or 16-minute episode about weird shapes and prime numbers. And don't worry, I'm not heading out quite yet, but you are welcome for the stream. But I will stick around for another 10 or 20 minutes. I didn't even end up putting on the lab coat in this one. I grabbed it when I got my charger, but it wasn't necessary. But maybe we will charge up a few bubbles before we end the stream, in which case I am going to put this on so I get less bubble gunk on the rest of me. Now, fans may remember it's hard to decide if I want to wear it inside or outside, because inside, if I wear it the normal direction, there's this prickly melted clock stuff. But right now that's fine because I'm long sleeved, but I have to like flash in my head which way I want that because each sides are equally stained and messy in different ways. But part of this side's messiness is prickly. If you don't have long sleeves, but I do, so it's fine. But I've prickled myself on that a bit. Now, yesterday, speaking of prickles, we had to take my cats to the vet. You know, they didn't scratch too much, but you got to get them in a box, and they don't get in a box. They're really, really great cats, but as good of cats as they are, magnificent cats, they're going to put up a little fight when you try and put them in a box. So luckily we were successful, but we could only get 2 at a time anyway. We only had 2 boxes and 2 appointments. So we got the main 2 cats, but the newer stray guy still needs to get his appointment. So, in any case, they were quickly forgiving. In fact, both of the cats slept in my bed part of last night. Double trouble combo. So I'm going to charge up the bubble machine for a little bit, and we can see how good my bubble tech is. And if it's functioning pretty good, then I think we'll accept the fact that bubble tech didn't get many votes. And if it's not working very well, because it has been raining recently and I haven't been that cautious with putting out a tarp over stuff, then we'll add some checks to bubble tech. So let's see. We got the bubble gun here. First, let's see if this bubble tech still works. I'm just gonna mess with the batteries before I even try anything, because sometimes it helps when you just like mess with them in here. This machine, it's finicky. It's cheap. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go. I feel like I left it out in the rain, and not sure if that's good for the battery compartment. Maybe if I replace the batteries, it'll work someday. It's not a huge loss. I feel like I got my $12 worth or whatever out of that. So maybe that's what I will do for bubble tech on a smaller scale, is buy new bubble gun. But now we got to test out the larger bubble machine. And to anyone who's new, you can make sure to leave a vote for what you want to see me buy. So, because we're going to restock some classroom supplies. Someone's wondering if I got my clock hobby from Captain Hook. No, I actually don't remember Captain Hook super well. I feel like I'm sure I've like seen adaptations of it or read adaptations of it, but don't remember it super well. So no, I'm not sure where I got my clock inspiration, but I think it was because it originally showed up in a lot of fiction books that I've written, well, half written, that I will publish someday, hopefully. That certain symbols in those that I ended up seeing recur a lot in what I wanted to show up in my fiction books were symbols like dice, clocks, fire, and things that you may see me have iterated into other versions of my creation. So I'm not sure exactly where my interest in clocks came from, but they're just a kind of surreal, interesting thing, a good old stopped clock. I've never been one to wear a watch, ironically. So feel free to ask any other questions, by the way. I put Q&A in this title, but also my main plan was to get some votes for what we should restock, and I'm going to plug in the bubble machine. So in the meantime, you can meet some of the students I had. That was a student in my last class yesterday. I needed to assemble 10 students for a shot about factorials. So, all right, I got to dump out this bubble fuel. That's the stuff that's old in there, I feel like. I had all these leaves in it. That's not going to work. So, starting from scratch, we still got a good amount of bubble fuel. And reminder to anyone who hasn't seen this on stream before, as this bottle will warn you, important information: do not drink the bubble solution. If swallowed, drink plenty of water to dilute the solution. And also remember that my recommendation is that drinking a bunch of water probably wouldn't be enough, so just don't swallow it. Okay, we got to vote for bubble tech. Okay, where's the pen? Okay. And we'll at least need to restock this pretty soon. This fella's getting pretty low. Now, this is when the stream gets wild. So, if we have enough fun with the bubbles and stuff, and I get carried away ranting about more of the grade -1 assembly stuff I haven't gotten to, we could end up having this stream up until like 3:30, like an hour from now. So that's how much full time I theoretically have. So let's fire up the bubble machine at a direction that it won't get on the camera much. Okay. Okay, we're going to move our stop school crossing sign. Okay, I forgot. You need to plug things in. All right, this is the exact length of the cord, so hopefully it doesn't get tugged in a weird way. And there we go. And the bubbles come. Now, let's try and get it going at a good lower upward angle, so they'll try and fill the classroom more than the neighbor's yard. Okay, now this is going to get all over the computer pretty soon. Okay, I think that's dodging the computer for now. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, we'll put the computer a bit further. And we have one more new addition to the combo classroom as well, which is what's okay, you ever played 20 questions? So I don't know if you've ever heard in like any guessing games, one of the trope questions to ask is whether something's bigger than a bread box. That like maybe that's not one of the tropes anymore, but for some reason that was like one of the common questions you'd ask if you were playing 20 questions, at least for me, is like, is it bigger or smaller than a bread box? And this item I have right here would be hard to answer that. It would kind of spoil the answer. It is exactly the size of a bread box. It is a bread box. So at least I think that's what it normally is meant to hold. It's broken. And that's okay, because there was some duct tape that kind of makes it work. Let's get it back on the duct tape. Now, if we have to hide any secrets at the beginning of the episode to unveil at the end of the episode, we have our bread box. And we're missing all of the bubbles in view. There's like a crazy amount of bubbles, actually. Okay. There we go. It's putting all of this, spraying all this juice in the air. Yeah, that's okay. So, thank you for joining me, everyone still here in the little combo assembly. I'm only going to be able to maintain this position for so long because, here, I'll sit over here where I'm a little further from the bubbles. Now, isn't that a nice setting? Having some nice fresh bubbles around never hurt until you get a little too much soap in your mouth and then you want to pause. So, let's see what else we got here. We got some bubble lovers. Someone said, sorry, came in late. What's bubble tech? And that essentially means a more powerful version of what we're generating right here. Can I make colored bubbles? Probably. Probably is a type of bubbled solution built for that. That's a good thought to look out for. Colored, let me look it up. Do you have colored bubble solution? Let's see if that's available anywhere online. Colored bubble solution. They do make do-it-yourself color bubbles. Yes, apparently we can make do-it-yourself color bubbles. So we should try that sometime. I also want to try and do some more classic bubble experiments. Like, for example, one time before I had this channel running, I had a big plate of bubble soap, and then you take like a coat hanger bent around, or what I want to try really is a hula hoop, but I didn't have that level of thing. but you take like something like a coat hanger bent around, and then you make like a big bubble. So I want to make big bubbles. I want to make cubic bubbles, which are possible to make. And I want to make colored bubbles now. Someone's wondering what the check marks are, and they are votes for what I should restock in my classroom. And I said everyone can have up to 2 votes. And then if they hang around long enough, they can make another vote every half hour or so. Um, so that's what I, whenever right now I have a little bit of extra savings, which now is mostly going to go toward mics. I put it toward weird stuff in the show. So right now it's mostly going to go toward mics. But apart from that, if and when I have an extra $100 or $200, what I should spend it on. Because all these would be upgrades to the classroom that I'm sure will come one by one over time. But the question is what people want to prioritize. Yeah, bubble forms cool minimal surfaces. It's true. And I believe not long ago they made some innovation on some bubble related conjectures in higher dimensions. So those are fields that are still getting new discoveries in. And if you look at how 3 bubbles join, you notice it joins in a sort of trilateral symmetry. It's not like a square grid. It maximizes it to have 3 touching. Look at that if you ever see, like in a shower or bathtub, any soapy foam generating. The little bubbles meet at 3s. Breathe in. How to vote? Oh, you just say what you want to vote in the comments. So we're going to go for Dyson clocks and another clocks we get. So we're going to add those, and then we're going to also write colored bubbles somewhere over here as something to try. So colored. So basically a lot of these are that it would be cooler if we had a colored version of what we currently have. Whiteboard colors, bubble tech colored. The dice and clocks would probably be colored. So what do we have votes for? Clocks, clocks, and dice. Okay, so now we kind of have 3 winners going carried away. I'm going to pause the bubbles for a second. Or maybe we'll put the... Oh, no, that was light mode. Whoa, okay, so this is heavy mode. I guess we got to try for a second. Tetrahedral packings. Yeah, tetrahedrons are pretty awesome. Tetrahedrons are a very underrated shape. In a way, it's the simplest 3D shape, not the cube. Ooh, this is interesting. So whoever wondered about the eyes that was on this over time, this part of the desk is now separate, apparently. If you look at the videos, you can see what part of the desk this used to be. So, whoa, that's another question, is what should I use this for? All right, now we're going to pause the bubbles. Okay. So yeah, this is a better view of where the desk is currently like. This used to be the top of the desk. There was a flat sheet on this, making that the top, and it was the other direction somehow. And now half of it broke off, so we have like half of the top with this weird honeycomby surface. And now the rest of it works like I'm at like a little news desk where I got like my little thing right here. I could put a cup of coffee and stuff. So works out just fine. I knew that the desk would evolve to a better place before it fully died. So, hello to anyone new. And remember, you can cast your votes for what I should buy. And since I have some cards here, maybe we'll play around with the cards while we chat. Although another card on top has all this bubble juice on it. So I liked doing card tricks back in the day. There were some fun card tricks that I invented. And I don't know if I remember any of them well enough to bust out any super good card tricks right now. They're better when you, it's hard to figure out card tricks that work through the screen. But I guess when someone's allowed to comment through the screen, that does make it more like you're doing it to a real viewer. So I'll bust out some of the card tricks I invented some other time. I'm just going to play around with them for now and rearrange them into a position that has never been in history. Going to be surprisingly easy to do. So someone's thinking that I would learn a lot that way if there was a stick in the ground and its shadow was tracked over the course of the days in a year. And that's true. I wonder if I would need to like recalibrate it for daylight savings or something, but I could do it in a time when it's not like that. Now, there's not that much sunlight right here because there's trees above us and the sun is at like random angles. There's a lot of walls around here, but my front yard could be good. Yeah, maybe I can make a sundial out of it. You know, there is a sundial down at the marina. There's a sundial that's a pretty cool big one, like 3 miles or 4 miles from here. So I will sometime take you guys on a field trip to the sundial. We have a vote for medium whiteboards. Now, that'll probably need to get a second vote or even third one before it makes it onto the ending contenders that I end up going for. But that's okay because, you know, I'll probably get better bulk deals if I don't fully split the funds among like 7 things. Someone's wondering if I've traveled into time. I think kind of always traveling through time. Just can't really choose the rate or direction. Have I jumped in a discontinuous way in my time travel? Maybe we'll reveal that in another grade. So let's see what else we want to cover. I think I wanted to just mention the grade -1 feature expectations, which included some more crazy animations and surreal shots and more wildness than ever before. And that there should be a few more months before we hit the new grade. I was thinking it might, I'm not sure. We'll probably end up with about 30 to 36 episodes in grade -1 on the main channel. So by that standard, we are about 2/3 of the way through. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or if there ends up being a crazy event that happens that makes sense for a grade shift. The grade shift is sort of like an earthquake, it can be chaotic. You know, you may, if you don't see me for a week and it's been a whole grade, you might have to wonder if a grade shift's going on. You'll see me in a totally different state. Not like state of the US, but like a whole new type of Demotro. But it will always try and come back to our little combo corner here. Hopefully in grade -2, I can have an indoor set somewhere as well set up so that on a rainy or loud day out here, I can still have footage that works well. So maybe half the time here, half the time in some other sort of chaotic little corner. But we'll see what grade -2 will hold. Things are still growing and blossoming, and I built this grade just from scratch out of the literal dirt, and it's working out pretty good. And there are, to whoever's excited about the field trips, there will be more and more field trips because I had these surgeries recently, so I wasn't able to do these in other places. But streams will be more fun if I'm doing all this ranting by a river or something or out in the woods somewhere. So I will definitely take you guys to some cool nature. Also going to be on the lookout for some hunts of certain types of animal and plant I want to make episodes about. So, like, might convince some friends to go 4-leaf clover hunting just for fun, in case I ever end up making a 4-leaf clover documentary. But the real goal would be to find more than 4 leaves. 4 would be cool enough, though. So, someone doesn't understand the English, but they love my videos. Maybe someday somebody will be able to caption them very unlikely that will be live stream captions at the time they're live, but maybe somebody will caption the older videos. I don't have time to work on that now. I'm really busy with making Combo Class work, and I'm working on assembling a more full and efficient and real existent team. And that will help me not have to do 100% of um, a lot of the stuff. The only parts that I do get help with filming and sometimes editing. But there's a lot of parts of making videos and posting videos and trying to turn this into something that could be my full-time job and doing a lot of other technological stuff that bores me. So, uh, hopefully I'll be able to just spend more time on the researching and filming in the future and finishing my books and stuff. Someone's asking where I live, and I live in the Bay Area of California. Um, Someone's wondering if I've seen Number Blocks. I haven't seen. Oh, do you mean Number Blocks as some teaching toy? Not sure exactly what one you mean, but sounds like a cool one. There's a lot of little good shape like or number like toys that are good at teaching kids things when they're in like elementary school, as you call it around here. Someone's saying they would love to help. Um, I'm not sure what they mean. If anyone wants to really spend time helping me with Combo Class in any way, and then they can feel free to shoot me an email at the contact link on my page. Um, but yep, I'm making it work for now, and we are rising at an insane rate of Combo Lords, growing like a volcano. Number Blocks. It's a TV show that my stuff's like the sequel to, they say. No, I should look that up. I'll save Number Blocks in my search history for later. Um, that sounds good. Yeah, they look like some blocks with faces that maybe are numbers or make numbers or something. Sounds good. I've always wanted to make a cartoon someday. I already have some scripts and even storyboards I've written over the years before. I've gotten sidetracked with so many different types of creative pursuit, and some of them involved writing storyboards and scripts for cartoons. So maybe someday I'll return to those. If I ever had a bunch of resources, I would, for fun, spend some of it on making a cartoon. And all of my no, all of my fiction type stuff that I make, like fiction cartoons or books that I may release over time, and my music and stuff, I will uh, often think of it as no, it's not very math related at all. But compared to normal stuff, there's probably going to be more mathematical things or references or concepts than typical. But there's also other realms of fantastical thought that I've gotten lost in that I want to share with you guys over time. I want to write more choose your own adventures, and some of those will include math textbooks, but I think choose your own adventures are underutilized. And not necessarily that you have to choose the story changing, but just choosing that you where you jump. Like in some ways, Wikipedia is a choose your own adventure. Um, what do I do other than this channel? I have some private students, and although there are math students, a lot of them are actually music students. I, a few years ago, worked at a music shop, and like 5 years ago, I was doing retail management at that music shop and just helping run a small company that now has two locations, but then it was just one shop and just me and a couple others and the boss working there. And so I was kind of doing retail and then management of a super small company. And then I wanted to transition into teaching more. So before I ever transitioned into math stuff, although I'd done a little bit of tutoring in math at that point, I it made sense and I had access to teaching like teaching studios and instruments and stuff. I switched from the sort of managing the retail part of the shop to teaching students there. And then over many transitions that included me having to get surgeries and stuff, I ended up switching to leaving half the students with the shop and taking half the students as a private like teacher, essentially, and just doing my own management and billing and stuff. And it very amicably with the boss, who's my friend. And so now I'm my own boss fully, and I have on Mondays through Wednesdays some private students. So some learn piano, some learn guitar, some learn digital beat making, some learn math. And I probably have a slightly math heavy way of teaching music because there's a lot of numbers secretly in there. Someone's wondering my favorite proof of the Pythagorean theorem. I think my favorite would probably be the one where it's easier if you cut out pieces of paper like I showed in the short. But if you show that this right here, let me draw it to get it right. How does this work? You gotta, oh, it's like this, yeah. So essentially, there's a way to, like, cutting out from paper, have 4 copies of this guy and 1 copy of that guy, and this guy's a square. Make this bigger square. And then there's a way to reassemble them so that you have that's 2 of them hitting each other. And then I might be doing this a little off, but there's a way to fit them together to show that it's a squared plus b squared plus c squared that I did in a short, where you end up having this reassembled. Like if you imagine him tucking there, him tucking somewhere over there. I didn't draw it perfectly. It might be a tiny bit off, but I made a short about it already on this channel. So that one is what you could call a proof without words. You don't even need to use words, and it kind of tells this story. But there are other good algebraic proofs too that sometime I will mention those more in an episode about the types of right triangles that have integer sides, like the 3, 4, 5 right triangle, because those have tons of cool properties and a lot of cool ways to demonstrate the 3, 4, 5 triangle. I could like demonstrate that in like 5 different ways, including like points on the unit circle, including coordinates on a plane, including little shapes that are triangles, including various ways. Little formulas where you take the 3, 4, 5 triangle and make a branching path into all sorts of other triangle, like all the other integer right triangles. Now, since there's a few new people around, you can vote for anything on there that you would like to see more of in the classroom, and I'll be restocking supplies soon. People are commenting on the hat. Thanks. It was just cold out, and this is my sort of like one of my 2 or 3 hats. I used to wear a lot more baseball caps back in the day. Now I sort of like more of a bucket hat or beanie or something, but a baseball cap I'll sometimes wear to a party or something too. So sometimes I wear hats, although you guys usually see me without them. And it's cold out today. So someone's saying they're using music theory to teach multiplying fractions and exponents and roots. That's cool. That's sort of a reverse of what often is, would be like using math to teach the music theory, but maybe that's the direction you mean, or I'm not sure. In either case, there's a lot of connections between a lot of stuff about like irrational versus rational numbers relate to music. Things like which numbers are co-prime to other numbers relates to our scales. And on simpler levels, just having little patterns like 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1 is like a secret pattern behind major scales. Having little patterns like that are, when you break them down to numbers, you could slide them to different letters. Thoughts on 369 numbers? There's a good Mathologer video about what some people mean by that, like a little vortex you can make with them. They're not like insanely particularly notable, just those trio, more than continuing it to 12 and stuff. Overall, if you mean 3-even numbers, like all of that continued, like 12, 15, and 18 and stuff too. I love 3-even numbers. I got whole videos on the main channel about them. I'm trying to get that word in the dictionary. But just 369 on their own, doesn't really cap off at 10 the coolness. And you could make bigger graphs that would have cool patterns as well. So 3, 6, and 9 are just the start of the awesome 3-vins. Someone's wondering what dice I have and any good ones. I don't really know what you mean by good. If you mean by durable, then probably not, because I got the cheapest ones I could find that were the right side shapes. And so, but to me, good means variety. So I have a lot of different types, but I really just got the cheapest ones available. And next time I might even try and go more bulk and try and get it even cheaper. Someone's wondering if I prefer a tuning system to 12-tone equal temperament, but I don't know enough about those to answer, really. So I haven't listened to enough music in other temperaments to have adjusted to it. So it still sounds kind of off to me because it takes a little while to sonically adjust when you're used to the other way of notes being. So I haven't researched them or tried it enough to have a preference or not yet, but in the future, I'm sure that will come up. Because after I explain everything about the 12-tone scale, you can kind of break one rule at a time. In combo class, I say that you break one rule at a time only. And it's a good policy legally. It's a good policy in my classroom. And it's kind of a good policy with music, where like you have something that you know will sound good, and then you change one thing about it. And at first we'll be changing smaller things, like you make a major chord minor, or like you smaller little adjustments. I'm sliding something to a different key. I'm breaking a rule because I'm syncopating the rhythm a little bit. But sometimes you only want to break one rule at a time from a more clear pattern. And one of the rules that's bigger that we'll break later is what if there wasn't 12 that we cut each octave into? So there's someone saying the Reddit microtonal has good ones. I'll check that out sometime. And remember, there's also a combo class subreddit that people should post more cool thoughts on. Now, someone's wondering, good equals cool unique. I don't really have any special dice. There might be a few that are not out here that are in my room from back in the day of cool ones I've found with like strange symbols on them or stuff that I collected way back in the day. So I might have some cool ones I'll find, like re-remember and find in my room later. But as far as like the combo class dice here, I don't really have any especially notable ones. I find these teaching blocks kind of funny. These are far from my favorites. I like the number ones more. But these are kind of funny that they all have like some letters with this big old font. Then they have like some letters on them that are like not that big old font. And then they have some like 1 or 2 numbers on them. And then they have like random symbols. This one has an umbrella and an acorn. So it's really obscure teaching element. I got a bag of those for $1 at a thrift store. But as far as dice, I would say that my favorites would probably be just the non-cube platonic solids, because cubes are so common that they are overrated. Not that they're worse, but they're overrated. So the tetrahedrons are less functional for gaming. They're a little more annoying to use for that. So I'd say my favorites would be the 12 and 20 sided. The 8 sideds are also a little harder for gaming, or they're just a little weirder in general, shape wise, spiky-ish. So I'd say the 12 sided and 20 sideds I have are my favorite, but I don't really have any like high quality ones or anything. I have a 20 sided one somewhere from when I used to play Magic the Gathering that is probably the higher quality than these. My favorite number sequence. There's too many of those to have a favorite, but some of the best and most classic, because of how many places they show up, are the triangular numbers. The further levels of summing things that you could make from the triangular numbers that show up as other parts of Pascal's triangle, which are tetrahedral numbers, numbers based on the 5D tetrahedron, and so on. So triangular numbers and their descendants, which are also theoretically you could see as the diagonals of Pascal's triangle, are one of my top favorites. But also like square numbers are awesome. Those are both types of what's called figurate numbers. So the whole family of what's known as figurate numbers I really like. And then cubes are great. But those are like, some don't even think of number sequences, but you can see them that way. And then the Fibonacci sequence is great, but I don't really want to give credit to the Fibonacci sequence because there's like the Fibonacci sequence, an almost as cool one called the Lucas sequence that in some ways is even cooler. And then there's like other ones that you could make where you start with different starts and do cool things. And really, the thing that any sequence where you start with two terms and then add the last two to make the next will converge to a ratio of the golden ratio of growth at some point. So I think that a Fibonacci-esque sequence, the idea of add the last two, is really great. There's some really cool ones though that are weirder. Now I have whole lists of my favorites of ones that I've found through the OEIS, the Online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences, one of the greatest websites in all time. Now, some people think I'm weird. It's like a really old-fashioned text-based website, but I think it's one of the top 10 websites to me personally. And so, in terms of usefulness and fun factor. So that one's cool because I can be playing around with numbers, plug in the numbers that are generated by what I'm playing around with. And if it's been discovered, which is, 90% of the time, then, or if there's been notes taken and it's been discovered, then you see other people's notes and name for it and stuff. And that's cool. You get to discover all sorts of new ones. So I have a lot of favorites that have weird rules that you do. One of my newer favorites is there's one that has a slightly more complicated version of the Fibonacci rule, but it is a recurrence relationship like that to generate new terms. And it makes this thing like, yeah. And I'm not drawing it perfectly, but it makes this really weird fractally hop thing that has like hard to predict behavior. I have not submitted to the OEIS for some reason, but I have like plenty of places in my notes where I'm like, ooh, I couldn't find this sequence on the OEIS. So I do have some good ones that sometime I want to submit. The thing is, I want to work with some more programmers first to just like run more numbers on the sequences I'm interested in, and then confirm more about if they haven't already been given a name. The difference between matter and energy. I don't know if I would currently be the pro at explaining that. I need to kind of refreshen some of my scientific knowledge before I do as much like physics or chemistry, because I like to say things that I'm pretty sure of. So I've done a lot more research in the past year about math stuff, and that's a lot fresher on my brain. So I need to kind of refresh a lot of my old scientific knowledge before I'd feel comfortable saying it factually. But I'll try and incorporate that in the future. Now, more thoughts about different tuning systems. And I could get carried away with the number sequence question forever because I love number sequences. So I would say that currently, if I had to pick one, I'm going with the one that is both the convex and spiky added up version that I showed of a certain type of perfect shape that I showed in my main channel episode called the Mysterious Hyperdice sequence. That this sequence goes 1, infinity, 9, 16, 3, 3, 3, and then infinite threes. So you get an infinity symbol, you get it descending into infinite threes, and the rest looks kind of like square numbers. And it actually describes something. So that's in one of the main channel episodes. That would be, if I had to pick one right now, I'll give it to that. Someone wants to hear my original sequences. Like I was starting to mention there, I want to work with more programmers to test larger batches of numbers, but I should really just start releasing some of the sequences and showing them to you guys. There's one I really like right now that I'm calling my pond forest sequence. It's sort of a rule you apply to a first row. So you give it a string of numbers, like the natural numbers or square numbers or whatever, and then, or a row of all fives or whatever. And then it's a rule you use to make new lines from there that is reminiscent of triangle or natural numbers to triangular number, or even reminiscent of a whole row of ones to natural numbers to triangular numbers to tetrahedral numbers to the next layers. But but with a twist, sort of. And so I call it the pond forest sequence because it generates these lines of sequences, and they make these big lakes of a certain number sometimes. And then it looks like they're almost endless. And then they like fly out into a river and die off or something. And so it's really unpredictable so far. But I've done that all by hand. And so it's intense. I need to work with a programmer on that. I'm too busy to learn something like Python right now. Someone says, would you consider a sphere to have one side or infinite sides? I think it's closer to the infinite sides, but really, a side is a flat part. So, in a way, I would say it either has 0 or infinite sides, depending how you view it. Almost one could be seen as one way of viewing it, also, but it's not a polygon, or it's not a polyhedra. Like a circle's not a polygon. So, because polygons need sides and angles, and it doesn't really have like an angle or side. So, I would say it's closer to having infinite sides out of the two. Now, thank you to everyone who congratulated and thanked me. It really means a lot. You guys don't always tune in to all my thoughts. I've hinted at things, but I've gone through a lot of anxiety and depression this year throughout surgeries and more. And I'll share more about that in the future. But it really helps having a lot of nice comments and the surprising growth of this channel. Not surprising that it grew, because I have huge goals for this channel, but surprising how fast it grew. Now, someone wants an English class. I'm going to do, unfortunately, my English episodes will be more about roasting the worst parts of the English language. Because when I research English, I always get sidetracked by how bad certain aspects are, and then want to see how like comically bad other things follow that pattern. So whenever I research math or present a math video, I'm always in the mood of like, oh, guys, you got to check this out. It's so cool. And then whenever I'm presenting something about language, it always turns into like, I can't believe the language is structured like this. What is going on? So I'll probably be a little more exasperated during my language episodes, but maybe that will add a bit of comedic or relatable edge. And so some of the language episodes that will come out on the main channel in the either grade -1 or grade -2 include terrible plurals, words with no rhymes, and there's a bunch of others, but those are two of the more soon. There's words that we have. There's one I've been researching recently for fun, so leave comments about if you have any more thoughts of this. I think we might have discussed this in an earlier stream, but it's been something I was doing a little research on. Is words that we now use as a normal word, but in the past either meant an entirely different thing or came from a surprising place, like a brand name. Brands have snuck into our language. Someone's saying sounds like number walls, and it is reminiscent of that. It doesn't follow the same number wall pattern, and I actually saw those number walls. That Mathologer video dropped at the perfect time. I saw that like right after I had been somewhere in the middle of reading this book called The Book of Numbers that I've recommended a few times by John Conway and Richard Guy. That's a really great like beginner to medium level number theory book. And so that has number walls in it, but they do the diagrams a little wrong. I think it got a little misprinted or something. I'm not sure if it's the publisher or if they just messed up the diagram or something, even though most of the book is super reliable. And so Mathologer dropped his even clearer version of that right after I started reading that. And so that was dope. Someone's saying, looking at the history of language, it gets cool and stops being so infuriating. The concepts of what linguistics could be are very interesting. So when I'm mocking things, it's mostly the English language in particular and the modern form of it. Now we get hooked on the English language is the way it is, my ABCs, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't that long ago that the alphabet was different and that there was an ampersand as the 27th letter. And not long before that, J wasn't in the alphabet. And not long before that, W was two U's. And not long before that, W was a symbol called win. And so things have changed and it goes rapidly fast. And for some reason, people think like, oh, right now we're just going to keep it all the same. It's not going to be the same in 100 years. It wasn't the same 100 years ago. In fact, the modern ABCs, there's 26 letters. They go in this order. Was not like that 200 or 300 years ago. So yeah, there will be more language ones about certain topics that I've found particularly ridiculous or exasperating. Then maybe in the further future there will be episodes about like bright sides of what language could or should be. But really, language is probably going to be like 10% of the episodes, and then we'll have like 20% nature, and then like 10% music, and then like 60% math, because that's what I have a lot of fun doing. But there's going to be other stuff too, other types of science. I really like nature. I really like chemical reactions that you can actually see something happening with. I really like plants and animals, even though that's in the nature category typically. So there'll be more episodes about stuff like that now that I'm mostly recovered from surgery. Although, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have to cut off the stream in half an hour because I have to go to physical therapy because I'm still recovering. So I've been missing out on my nature recently. Man, I got to be getting back on some hikes soon and interacting with some rivers and some birds. You know, rivers are a very, very highly recommended thing around here in combo class. Someday in the future, my dream is whatever property I live on when I'm 40 or 50. I don't care what the house looks like, if it's big or small, what type of house it is. I want it to be next to a river. That would be my dream. And like kind of in the woods. So we'll see if I can get there someday. And even beyond that, maybe someday I'll make a whole combo castle by the woods and invite you there. More of an idiom, someone's saying, or an apostrophe is a letter. You use it to spell words. You could consider an apostrophe should be maybe considered a letter, but then you'd want to say maybe that the hyphen's also a letter. That's a whole nother story how they're cutting the hyphen out of language. And I'm okay with removing the hyphen if you stick the words together. But if you remove the hyphen and separate the words, it means different things. Like, what if you have like slow running water versus slow running water or something? Although running water might not be hyphenated, but there are a lot of cases where you can have these three words attached this way or this way, and a hyphen helps. And what we should do if you don't want to use the hyphen as a symbol is stick them together still. But when they're separated, it can mean two different things. So you're losing clarity when people get rid of the hyphens. My opinion on ASMR, to each their own. I don't judge what type of content people want to watch. I can find some of it a little weird. I find most of it just to be more on the boring end, so I wouldn't watch it because it's just not doing anything really. But now, if you read certain types of legitimate ASMR, that I'm kind of coming across as answering the question of like ASMR tagged videos on YouTube. Those I find pretty boring or sometimes verging on kind of weird. But there is like physical sensations that can be triggered by hearing certain sounds that cause like legitimate, what could be categorized as that. So the idea of weird sounds triggering things is interesting. So that's cool. But probably not going to be starting an ASMR channel anytime soon. Although I feel like it could be almost ASMR-ish when I live stream and I'm just like solving equations. So that's its own form of, depending how you consider the whiteboard on marker sound. If I ever have to solve an equation that takes me like 10 minutes, maybe that'll be a little ASMR-ish. Someone's saying, what's a better language than English spoken on Earth today? I'm actually not sure my recommendation. I would probably have to do more research. But I know that English, although it's evolved to be a common one, is kind of a mismatch of a bunch of languages in a way that they didn't really amalgamate them ideally. Now, yeah, punctuation in general is cool. In fact, I have a brief mention of punctuation in the episode I talked about that I was filming yesterday. The episode that'll come out 2 from now, but that I filmed yesterday. And that's an exclamation point. And that's because the episode was about factorials. So it's talking about exclamation point in math. But it's also just a great symbol. Now, I want to remind anyone who hasn't seen my least watched video on the main channel, the only one that less than 1,000 views, which was my first lunch break where I'm just eating random weeds around my garden and kind of ranting. So it makes sense that not as many people watch that as the more cohesive math ones. However, it's a little slice of my life when I was in the midst of the surgeries, and a little slice of my garden. And I do have a little rant in there about how my favorite piece of punctuation is the interrobang. Don't blame me for it being called the interrobang. That's what it's called. I didn't name it. It's the combo of the exclamation mark and question mark. You can make them as one symbol on some devices, and it just is a punctuation mark throughout history. So that's the best punctuation mark. Well, that's the one that stands for combo class, kind of. But it sort of is like that combined with like an ampersand before or after it. And then, because I don't know if that comes before or after, because that's my second favorite piece of punctuation, which used to be the 27th letter, because it kind of implies, and more. We got more. If you have that, you get some more. You know, whenever you see that, get another surprise. So this one means like we're not done yet in terms of like mood to me. And this one means like that combo class mood question of like big question, like an exclaimed hypothesis, or so I would say that is sort of a symbol of combo class that I almost used for the logo, but I ended up just having the burning clock that was in the intro. And then the ampersand is my other, one I really like. But I'll say that what I think should be used more apart from those two is parentheses instead of commas. I think that it should be more normal in like formal or random or different times to use parentheses. So someone's saying rivers are awesome because they're bits of coastline reaching onto the land. Yeah, when you look at the map, you can see the little tributaries, bigger ones branching together. Now, what I like about rivers is that A, they evolve in front of your eyes. You sit there and it's always moving and changing. B, there are places where so much wildlife thrives. When you're going through the woods, the greenest plants are right by the river, the biggest plants. You can see fish sometimes. You can see little crabs and stuff sometimes. And just rivers contain so much life. And there's a lot of great rivers in the forests of California that I've camped by throughout my life. And someday we're going to go on a combo class camping trip because throughout most of my life, I've gone camping in the forest or sometimes on the beach in various places throughout California, starting with my family and then up to with sometimes my friends, sometimes my family, since I was a kid for a few times a year. And now that has stopped, not because I don't want to go camping with my friends or family. I want to take both types of trips still, but because it went to a halt due to some craziness in my life and then the surgeries I had to get. So the craziness not even being the surgeries, the craziness being some years that led up to the surgeries. But I will return to camping and bring you all on some rare combo class camping trips sometime. Because some of the best places to camp around here include Big Basin and Big Sur. And there's a place called Henry Cowell that's very magnificent of a river. There's a river in this spot called Henry Cowell I found that was like too good to be true. So there's this river that it's down like below or east, either east or south of Santa Cruz or somewhere in that region. And maybe north, I don't know. It's in the region of Santa Cruz. Um, can't be too west because that's water. But it's like a thick redwood forest, and I'm hiking through this thick redwood forest, and I come across there's like sand on the ground right within the trees. I'm like, that's weird. And then you go forward, and the trees stop, but there's like redwoods and sand mixed for like 10 feet.
after it just being straight up redwoods. And then there's like 10 more feet of sand, then like a 15-foot river, and then the other side is the same thing, like a sand bank, like a little beach for like 10 feet, and then straight to redwoods. So it was like a beach and then the redwoods just right behind it. It was insane. And the river was like deep enough that it had like fish and flowing, splashing sounds. And you can see these reflections that are insane in the river. If you just stare in the river and listen, it's like the deepest form of meditation practically. So I would say in combo class, these are two of the deepest activities when you want to not be doing something busy, not be like work is valued in combo class. Work can be beautiful, but when you just need to do something more meditative, two of the highest recommended activities are petting a cat or a dog or other animal and staring into a river. And here's another meditative activity that will show up in the episode I filmed yesterday. Here's a little sneak preview of an episode that they'll be dropping next week, which is that you may have heard the thing, which is this part of the episode I had to throw in because it was about factorials being permutations, but you may have already heard this little chunk out of all the new stuff in the episode you may not know, which is that when we reorder these 52 cards, we're making one permutation out of 52 factorial ways the deck could be ordered. So anytime I properly shuffle the deck, earlier in the stream I joked it's not going to be too hard for me to make it into a position that it wasn't ever in history. And really that just means I need to get a good shuffle. I just need it to be well mixed up. And it's going to be in a position it was never in history because there have been nowhere near as many shuffles in history as 52 factorial. And so when you go buy a deck of cards, here's a nice meditative activity to keep in mind. I sometimes think of it as the term, which this shows up in one of my books, but that I'll drop someday. But I think of it as the term meta shuffling, and you don't really need to know the spelling because it could work either way. Like meta as the level beyond shuffling, or it's sort of meditative shuffling. And my meditation shuffling works like you just shuffle a deck a few times so you know it's mixed up. If it's already pretty well shuffled, you only need a few more. If it's a fresh deck, get like 8 shuffles or 10 shuffles or something. Then you will have it in a position it's never been in history. You will have done something unique that's never been in history, and you take a moment to shuffle and think about how every action you take is actually unique. So yeah, lots of cool comments about rivers and stuff. Oh, I can't wait to take you guys by the rivers. I have some rare footage that, like I mentioned before, when I put out a Patreon, which will be at the start of December, I think, in addition to offering some levels of being part of like a rarer class with me where I teach specific math and science and stuff. And then even higher levels where you get to like personally talk to me and ask me questions or help. Um, and lower levels and all the ones above that, but starting from lower levels, you get to see a bunch of rare footage from the past. Like one of the ones that happened a couple of years ago that's pretty fun is um, investigating by a river this weird old abandoned house that was on the property of somewhere I was staying, and it was spooky. Oh yeah, someone's saying hyphen n dash and m dash can be misunderstood and misused. Yeah, they're used at the wrong times, but I think we should simplify the thing. Come on, hyphen n dash and m dash look way too similar. We gotta only have 2 of them. We only need the short one and the super long. Get rid of n dash. Let's reassign some of n dash's responsibilities to the other dashes. There should be a short and a long. The medium makes it all confusing. If there wasn't the medium, it would be super clear. You know the short's short. You know the long's long. Now that there's the medium, every single one has a discrepancy. The medium could practically be any of the sizes. The big, you're like, is this medium or big? The small, you're like, is this small or medium? So remove the medium, reassign its responsibilities to the hyphen and the m dash. Remove the n dash. So how to pick up lines? You mean like pick up lines with trying to pick up a partner or something? I would say you just got to be yourself. Use your natural confidence. Ask questions. Be very nice and polite, yet confident in yourself. Ask a lot of questions and listen well. Share some of your own hobbies, even if you think they're weird. Try and be confident about them. And pickup lines are kind of a weird way to look at it. Those don't really work. So kind of just got to be a good conversationalist. Somehow I think, managed the skill of being a pretty good conversationalist in certain ways, but it takes a while, a lot of practice. Um, and in general, it's not, ooh, we got a cat coming. Hi, Sassafras. It's the stray one. It's Mr. Sassafras. Oh, just ran around the corner. What do you, whoa. You see him there? Look at him. Oh my God. Yeah, these cats are nimble. These cats can go wherever they want. That was a good one, Sassafras. Dang. You guys see that? That was some crazy cat action. They've done even wilder though, because they are great at stunts whenever they want. They can do whatever they want. I have my window so that it's like there's a fence outside my window the cats jump into. And so usually I have the window so it's open like that much and then like shut and locked. And then well, I used to. I used to have the window open like this much. And then I was like, that'll be too small for them to jump in. Because when I'm in the room, sometimes I have it fully open and they jump in from the window. So then I would have it like open like this much when I was like trying to tell them like it's not time to jump in from the fence. Or I just needed it shut because it was cold. And then uh but then I would have it shut like this, and they would jump from the other fence and go like at this weird angular velocity and like fly through and somehow get in. And then I would shut it even more. And now if I want to tell them don't try and jump through, because sometimes I'm worried they'll get stuck. It'll be open like this much. And then like let me show you like how can I put it for scale? It'll be open like this much. And they'll jump from this fence all the way over far away and like and like fly through this little crack and look stuck and then like squeak through. So now if I want to tell them like don't try and jump through the window, I need to open like more than this so they have a comfortable time jumping, or like less than this so they won't jump at all. So they're wild. They are a liquid often. Yep, they turn into a different state of matter. Not technically, but their bones must work different because they can melt. And I briefly hinted or earlier in the stream that yesterday was their vet day. Not that guy. He didn't get an appointment yet. We only got to get two this time. But the main two, Sage and Dandelion, oh boy, they did not like going in the boxes. But they forgave me so fast and cuddled me all night. Yeah, my cats helped keep me sane. You guys can credit my cats for part of why combo class is here, because I've been through some dark times that I literally don't know if I would have made it through if it wasn't for my cats, among other factors. But such dark times that if the cats were removed, things could have been different. They cheered me up at some very important times, and those cats are part of the reason why combo class thrives. Also, so they have different roles in my mind a bit, because Sage, the main one, is so elegant and poised and perfectly agile and stuff like that. That guy's more similar to that, but is more scared and squirrel too, more scared and stray and more of like a challenge to try and get him to love you. And then my fluffy cat, Dandelion, is just so silly and insane. He'll just be like frozen with all his limbs in the air, stretched out, looking all weird. And he loves getting his belly rubbed for hours. And he's so fluffy and silly. And so whenever I'm in a dark mood, I see Dandelion and I can't help but laugh. So yeah, if you join the Discord, there's a little sticker of Dandelion. I'll try and make some more of Sage and Sassafras sometime with some good photos. I didn't put the links in this, but for people who use Discord or Reddit or stuff like that, there are those links to the combo class ones in some of the past recent streams descriptions. But everyone here is awesome. I got to get ready for my physical therapy thing pretty soon. So I think I'm going to log off in a second. If anyone has any last questions, feel free to drop, or any last votes on what I should buy, feel free to drop them. And so far, what it looks like is I think I have the funds for what's here to get a couple hundred dice, maybe 5 more clocks, and maybe, whiteboard markers are surprisingly expensive in different colors to get ones that will work. It's weird. Like to get black whiteboard markers, even bulk, they're like $1 each or something, and the colored ones are more. So, and I go through markers so fast, I always forget to leave the caps off. Oh God. I'm like insanely bad at forgetting to put the caps back on. So there's dead markers just littering this place. Um, Thank you to the new joiner. Unfortunately, we are not going to be around long because I have to wrap it up now. But if anyone ever rewatches the streams, it actually helps the channel more, weirdly enough, because this channel still isn't on the partner program despite having millions and millions of views, because they don't count the views from shorts or from currently going live streams. They count it from live streams watched after, and they count it for other types of videos, which almost all the views of the millions and millions on this channel were from live stream viewers who were there during the time and from mostly my shorts. And so those aren't counted. So it needs a lot more views on just the couple like longer videos I put on this channel and on rewatching old live streams. So that actually really helps the channel right now. Although, like I've hinted, if you really want to help the channel in a little bit, I'll be launching the Patreon on December 1st, and then you can see if the combo class dates are good for you. I should mention too, if anyone who plans on, I don't know the exact price yet, I'll let you guys know next time, on joining any of my private classes when I put those on a Patreon, then feel free to leave what time would be best for of day, or maybe weekday, if that I might not be able to account, but what time of day would be best for you for a class in Pacific time, where I am in California's time, if anyone wants to do it and wants to make sure they can attend the class. It's going to be hard to offer classes when people are in so many different time zones, so I'm going to have to be doing each week one at an earlier time and one at a later time. Some people might get lucky and be able to go to both, but mostly people will have like one that's more catered to their time zone. Someone's saying focus on my health. I will with my physical therapy appointment after this. Thank you. And you guys all have a great weekend too, although I'm sure I may see you before long because, I do like these streams and stuff. Or you can join me in that Discord or subreddit where I answer a bunch of posts, post some of my own thoughts there as well. There will be a lot more combo stuff coming, and the soonest will probably be the full episode coming in 1 to 2 days on on the main channel, the main combo class channel, that will include animations, crazy shapes, clocks, prime numbers, other bases, and it'll be an epic 15 or 16-minute experience. And then next week, you'll get to see my factorial episode with why that's burnt, why I had to get out so many chairs that are stacked behind this chair's blocking all the other chairs, whatever. And why my classroom chicken is back in action along with some other strange friends. So that will all be in our factorial episode. Wait, I want to see the status on this guy. Did this guy get? Oh, he did it. Check it out. This guy got some candle wax and burn marks on him. He also, so this guy's been taking a toll this season. There's an episode first on the main channel where this thing, the glass shatters one time when it falls. Then there's one where, well, first there's a couple shots where it rolls down the sideways desk perfectly. There's one in a bonus short video where I let go of it. It rolled down and perfectly slid somehow off the wall, like zoop, behind the whiteboard, like a coin in a piggy bank. It was insane. Then I later had to do a less elegant slide, and it shattered all the glass. Throughout an episode, all the glass got more and more shattered until it was gone. Then the newest, a little bit of this side thing broke off at some point, but now this whole part of the side thing, a big portion of the radius of that side bit is broken because that happened in the factorial episode, as well as whatever caused these burn marks. So, for one thought to leave you before you watch, I was going to give you a factorial thought. I should give you a thought about these weird star spiky shapes, because that's the episode that's actually coming out tomorrow or possibly the next day. So let's leave some thoughts about some star spiky shapes. So we count in base 10, right? Unfortunately. So, well, actually, let's use our clock analogy first. That's level 1 that the video starts with. So this is a puzzle I've briefly mentioned in an earlier stream, but now we're going to come back to it as a fresh thought in your minds so that you're ready for the episode tomorrow. So, and that's on the main channel, remember, not on this one. So make sure you're on the main channel too. So here, if I have a clock, and we'll say these are here, but we're not mattering where the minutes are for this puzzle. Now, if I want, so if I mattered how the minutes were, it would have something to do with 60s. Or if it mattered how both were in conjunction, something to do with 720s. 6 factorial by surprise. That's a separate fact is that there are 6 factorial minutes in 12 hours. That's a whole nother story that's in the episode. But in this part, wait, no, that's in the factorial episode. So yeah, both the next episodes are about clocks to a degree. Good thing I have so many. So for the next episode that's actually coming out tomorrow probably is if you have a clock here, and we're just looking at hours changing for now. So it'll be like integer amounts, and it's going to be something 12 related. Well, if I have an alarm go off once an hour, I hit each time in sort of, if I drew a line between which times I was hitting one at a time, I would have a regular dodecagon, 12-sided polygon. Now, same thing would happen if I had an alarm go every 13 hours, because that's still one more than the 12. One, if I drew the line to the time it ended up being on for each time the alarm happened, it would draw the same regular pentagon if it was any number one more than a multiple of 12. And if it was any number one less than a multiple of 12, like if my alarm went off every 11 hours, it would paint out, sort of, with which times it hits, the 12-sided regular polygon in reverse. Now, what if I had my alarm go every 2 hours? It would paint out a regular hexagon, but it wouldn't hit every time. Depending when I started, it would either only hit the even hours or only hit the odd hours. So which alarm amounts, and really, since we say one more than multiple of 12 is the same as any other one more than a multiple of 12, we're just going to say in terms of mod 12. How much more than a multiple of 12 am I? 12 becomes 0. The others stay what they are, but they also represent a whole family of things that are that much more than a multiple of 12. So which of my 12 options paint out shapes that touch every corner? Those would be the ones that would have an alarm that would eventually have hit at every time of day. At every number time. We're not mattering if it's AM or PM. So now, what would happen if you tried to make a version of that with 10 to try and think about things about our system? And then what does that all have to do with prime numbers? And there's actually multiple ways it has to do with prime numbers, because it also has to do with something called coprime numbers. Coprime numbers are numbers that don't have to be prime, but the two coprime ones have no factors bigger than 1 in common. So like 15 and 16 aren't primes, but they're coprime because they have no factors in common apart from 1. So that all that stuff I just ranted about has to do with coprime numbers. And then on an even slightly further level, it has to do with primes themselves. So that's what we will meet in the next main channel episode. And there may be another shorter live stream before that, or maybe not, but probably not, because that's coming like tomorrow-ish. So thank you all for asking questions. The last one I'm going to do is favorite 2D shape, and then I'm going to close this off. That's a hard one because there's a lot of cool 2D shapes. A pentagram is pretty cool, like a star shape, because that's sort of, we'll meet why the pentagram looks more unique than smaller versions in the next episode. So that's a pretty cool one. But really, it's going to be hard to beat triangles. Now, it's even going to be hard to beat 2 different types of triangle, or even 3 different types. It's going to be pretty hard. And then, see, I do like the star too because it contains the golden ratio in side lengths and stuff. So that's cool. So that one gets like a pretty high shout out. Circles are obviously pretty dope. Those ones. Now, I could say fractal shapes, but some consider those to have a higher than 2 dimension, like a dimension between 2 and 3. So I'm not going to say like fractally stuff right now. Those would probably be the coolest if I could. Um, but my favorite 2D shapes would probably be triangles often because other shapes are basically a bunch of little triangles put together. So why don't, well, other polygons. So the circle is epic, but apart from that, you get the 3, 4, 5 triangle. You get these are drawn so bad. You get the equilateral triangle. Those ones are pretty insanely good. And then you get the 40, what some call the 45, 45, 90 triangle, but I prefer to think of as, because that's so dependent on that we count in degrees. I prefer to call it the isosceles right triangle, because only isosceles right triangles can be like that, 45, 45, 90s. So those three alone, the 3, 4, 5, and the family that's built off it, it's shrunk or built, the equilateral, which can be split. If you cut this in half, you get the 30, 60, 90. So the 30, 60, 90 you get as a freebie inside there. It's 2 of them. So, and then you get that, which is the 45, 45, 90s half a square, or it's the diagonal between a bunch of really close grid points on a coordinate. If you go over one and up, the diagonal, like if you go over one and then up, the total distance from where you started is √2 times however long over and up were, assuming they were the same. So this is him, and he's related to squares. Um, these ones are pretty classic and hard to beat as 2D shapes. But I am a fan of a bunch of other ones that you will. In fact, some of my favorites are going to show up in tomorrow's episode. Now, of course, there are more obscure 2D shapes you can get into, but some of the coolest, like I hinted at, are often nicknamed to have a fractal dimension in between 2 and 3. So I'll save that for later. Now, to anyone new here, I'm wrapping up in like 2 minutes. Feel free to leave a comment on which of these things I should buy more of in the classroom. And I will catch you all soon. Stay tuned for that episode tomorrow on the main channel. Oh, I think I missed one. Sorry. What was the one I missed? I had to add, did I miss one? I swear I missed one of these. Okay, sorry if I missed someone's comment on this. I can't find it right now, but this got a good amount of votes. So, and I'll see you guys for more live streams and other stuff soon. Take care and have a very combo-filled day.